Of the Sacramento County Civil Service. Good afternoon. This is a meeting of the Sacramento County Civil Service Commission, December 18th, in compliance with directives of the county, state, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This meeting is live streamed and closed to the public. Temporary procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, please dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in the queue for a specific agenda item or off-agenda item matter. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be transferred from the queue into the meeting to make a verbal comment. Written comments are always accepted. Please send your email comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. Chair Nelson, the meeting is yours.
Okay, so Civil Service Commission, December 18th, 2020, now in session. We'll have a roll call. Okay. Gina, are you going to do the roll?
Yep. Yes. Commissioner Boyce?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Present.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yep.
Commissioner Purdy?
Here.
Commissioner Suter?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Suter here. I'd like to request that we hear item 9, which is the Fleet Services Class Study granting status, above item number 8, which is the revision to the Sacramento County Fire Class Study. I'd like to hear 9 first because I'm going to leave early, and I have all the confidence in the world that the airport fire class will be adequately studied by our commission and specifically Mr. Johnson. So if we could do that, I'd appreciate it.
I agree. Any opposition to that? Okay, duly noted. We will now move 9 to right ahead of, well, all right, 7. We'll go 7, 9, then 8. So I have
just to know, I will let you know when I have to leave.
Okay. I have a couple of announcements to make here. One about our illustrious Alice, who has been elected to the City Council of Auburn. Give her an attaboy there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My second announcement here is for those of you who know Mr. Bowler, Bernard Bowler, who's on this commission for several years. He is now at home recovering from heart surgery, and he's doing well. So,
excellent.
Great.
Good.
Okay, so now we'll move on to public comment, which I doubt if there's any. We'll move to the consent matters, which would be the minutes and the quarterly reports from the Personnel Department.
Mr. Chairman, we need to, just for the purposes of the record, we still need to read the statement under public comment and ask if there is any. Sorry.
There is any one who wishes to address the Commission regarding any item that is not already scheduled on today's meeting agenda, and it is within the Commission's subject matter jurisdiction via email at boardclerk@saccounty.net. However, the Commission may not take action on such items except as authorized by the Government Code 54954.3 and Civil Service Commission Rule 14.13. Okay, now we'll move to the consent matters. This will be item 5, which is the prior meeting minutes and the quarterly reports from Personnel Services.
Ron Suter, I move a motion to approve the consent matters.
I second. This is Mike Johnson. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
I think we need
yes,
a voice
we need
call.
a roll call vote, please.
Yeah, we'll have to do a roll call vote on all of these. Okay.
Commissioner Boyce, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Purdy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Suter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Oh, let the record show that the motion has been adopted unanimously.
Okay. We have a separate matter issue, item 7, the Department of Personnel Services, provisional appointments for November. We have an appearance on that matter.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Carla Honey, HR Manager, Department of Personnel Services. I have 3 updates for you for the 4 different provisionals. The first one is for the Senior Contract Services Officer. The exam opened on December 17th. The first cutoff is January 19th. The list is tentatively scheduled to be established the week of February 8th. The next update is for the Scale Attendant 2. The eligible list was established on December 2nd, and the provisional is reachable. And the last is the Collection Services Supervisor. The exam opened on December 9th. Final filing date, December 23rd. The list is tentatively scheduled to be established the week of January 18th. So unless you have any questions for me, I request that you please receive and file the provisional report for the month of November 2020.
Miss Honey, this is Ron Suter. I see that you have the
Hi.
supervisor legal secretary on that list also. Or
Yes,
at least the one I have in my hand.
Yes. There's no change in the status listed on the report before you, so
Okay.
there's no update at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if we all agree, let's have a motion on this.
Move to accept the report as given. This Commissioner Johnson.
Commissioner Nelson here, I second that. All in favor?
We need a vote.
Aye.
Or
Vote.
Roll.
Yeah, all votes
Ready.
need to be roll call.
Yes, Gina, you have to
Yes.
ask every time.
Commissioner Bloys, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Purdy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Suter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, so thank you very much. That the motion has been passed, as adopted unanimously. So we're moving on to agenda item 9, correct, Mr. Chairman?
That's correct. We're now moved to item 9. We're skipping 8 per Mr. Suter's request. Item 9 is the 2020 Fleet Service Class Study. Appearance on that matter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is actually an item that's coming before the Commission pursuant to the 2020 Fleet Services Study. The Commission had approved that study a couple of months ago, and DPS is coming forward requesting that the Commission grant permanent status to 2 individuals who are currently permanent employees and to 1 employee who is a probationary status into the classes that were newly created before they go to the Board of Supervisors. And yes, Karen Farrell is here to present this particular item to you and answer any questions you have.
Okay, that's a question. Okay, Karen. Do we have any questions?
Karen.
Karen.
Hello?
Suter, I have no questions.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Karen, you can
Yes.
go.
Okay. We request that your commission approve the granting of status for 3 incumbents in the Fleet Services Study. These positions were not included as part of the initial class study approval given by the Commission in July. DPS is scheduled to submit the class study to the Board of Supervisors at the end of January, and the classes of Equipment Supervisor and Automotive Mechanic Range B will be abolished and replaced with the new classes of Fleet Supervisor and Senior Automotive Mechanic, respectively. In order to complete this action, all incumbents in these classes must move to the new classes. The probationary incumbent will serve the remainder of the probationary period in the new class. I would be happy to respond to any questions you may have regarding this request.
I move approval of the granting status for the 2020 Fleet Services class, pursuant to the recommendation of our executive officer.
Did we have a second on that?
Yeah, this is Gordon now. I will happily second that.
Okay. Gina, would you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Blois, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Purdy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Suter, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, that motion has passed.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Now, are you still on, Suter, or are you going to hang out here for a while?
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I've got another half an hour.
Okay, good. All right, we'll now move to item 8, which is the Sacramento County.
Yes, Mr.
Classification
Chairman. This is the revision of the Sacramento County Classification Plan as recommended by the 2020 Sacramento County Airport Fire Class Study. There are several recommendations that are listed in the report that I provided to you. They are in addition to the items that are listed on the agenda. I wanted just to note for the purposes of the record, Commissioner, my understanding, and Commissioner Johnson, please correct me if I am speaking out of turn. It's my understanding that Commissioner Johnson will be recusing himself from discussion and voting on the classes of firefighter and the class of fire captain, as they are both represented by the Sacramento Area Firefighters Local 522, and Commissioner Johnson is a retired but paying member of that particular union. So it's my understanding, and Commissioner Johnson, you can please feel free to elaborate.
That is correct. I would like to thank our counsel for advice on that matter, and I would let him know and wanted the board to know that I did not want anything, I don't know, the integrity of the board being challenged in any way, and I'd rather just step back. And I'd like to thank Mr. Parrish again, and when you get a chance, send me a copy of that court case.
I will do, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Nelson here and Mr. Johnson, I just not surprised at your actions, but I'm also extremely disappointed because there's nobody that knows more about this issue than you would. So I guess we'll have to move on without your great expertise on this.
Well, I'll ask a couple questions just to keep things going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson, take it away here.
No, I was going to wait till Alice was going to present the item that we were going to discuss. And
yes,
I thought
so
then
we have staff present for the purposes of providing a report. And it's actually Stephanie is going to do this. I had indicated Karen on my chair notes, but Stephanie is here along with the fire chief, Dale, as you've already noticed. And then we have Sherry Thompson, who's the Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance as well. So we'll go ahead and defer to Stephanie, and she will present the item.
Good afternoon. Stephanie Hone, Personnel Analyst with the Department of Personnel Services. The Commission approved the proposed revisions to the Sacramento County Airport Fire Class Series. The primary purpose of the class study was to incorporate paramedic duties into the class specs so that incumbents are able to perform life-saving emergency medical care for employees and customers. In addition, we have created the fire engineer class into the series per the labor agreement with the firefighters union. The Department of Personnel Services, with concurrence from the Department of Airports, requests that your commission approve these revisions. Fire Chief Carnes and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Additionally, I would like to acknowledge your Executive Officer, Alice Dowden-Cavillo, as she has been extremely helpful at getting this to you so quickly in light of the timelines for the board. And please note that she and I have discussed the changed recommendations in her report, and we have no objections. Thank you.
So,
Ron Suter here. I have no questions.
On the this is Commissioner Nelson here, and there's a notation here about the Sacramento County fire, the captain, fire captain. It says here on page 5 of 19, it says will provide supervision to a single crew. How many people would that be in the crew?
Chief, if you're able to respond to that.
Yes, Commissioner, this is Dale Carnes, Fire Chief. Our crews are 3-person crews. So we normally have a captain and 2 firefighters on each crew.
Okay, just curious. There a representative here from the union that recommended the establishment of that new class?
Mr. Chairman, I have been in contact with both unions, and neither union indicated that they would be present for today's meeting.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Nelson, this is Mr. Johnson. I guess I'll put it to you or Mr. Parrish, is on the fire captain, which is represented by 522. The answer that the chief gave, I was somewhat confused what that answer meant. And may I ask just a clarifying question?
Yes, correct.
Commissioner Johnson, I'm sorry, this is your executive officer. And again, well, legal counsel can confirm this, but it is my understanding that when you are recused, that you actually recuse yourself from any discussion whatsoever with regard to those 2 classes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's the general standard, yes.
Okay.
So there's another question here about a fire captain, SCAF, minimum qualifications. It says the license requirement, that's on page 6 here. License requirements for a California driver's license are now accepting licenses from another state. Well, I can understand that the county might do that, but how does DMV fit into that?
The current MQs state that they will accept a driver's license from California only. So we have opened that up to broaden to allow any applicants even applying from out of state.
I understand that, but that's good for you guys. But what about DMV? Are they going to accept that license?
They have the amount of time to acquire the California state within that specific amount of time that's stated within the 6 months of appointment.
Okay. So they're still legitimate to operate all the equipment for 6 months, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that a correct statement?
Yes, staff had indicated it was correct.
Okay, I didn't hear. Sorry.
She's quiet.
So another question I had was here on I guess it's the battalion chief, who has now needs a bachelor's degree. Is that a correct statement? Am I reading that correctly?
No, the battalion chief, as a education substitution, we have an associate's degree.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think that's all the ones I had.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Nelson, this is Mike Johnson. I had a couple questions I would like that pertain to the engineer, the battalion chief, and the chief, and I would like to be able to talk to the chief to see if I can get some clarifications.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Chief, this is Mike Johnson. I want to thank you and congratulate you. I was in the fire service. I started over 50 years ago, and I can't see you, but I assume you are probably at least, I'm going to guess, 40. Most chiefs are at least middle-aged in a way. But the fire service is making, and you have seen a lot of progress and change, and I think it is for the positive. And I do have a lot of questions, but some of them I can't ask. But I think this document is classification change is very positive, and I congratulate you for that. And I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Looking at the battalion chief, and I'll link it up also with the chief. And you changed your requirements, and you are saying that to be a battalion chief, you have to have 7 years of experience and 3 of them as a fire captain or equivalent above. And we are noting down there that associate's degree or higher may, which I was going to ask is the difference between may and will. This says may. Substitute for 2 years of required, non-supervisory experience. All right. That I answer my own question. But on the chief, you've increased the education and especially, but you feel you were going to allow that all experience may be able to still qualify a candidate? Because I think looking down on it, full-time paid experience performing firefighter duties in the state or municipal fire department's fire district, federal military ARFF installations or equivalent may be substitute to the required education identified above on a year-for-year basis. So you are looking that that the entire 4-year degree could be substitute for experience.
Yes, sir, that is correct. That is what we have included.
Okay. And kind of understanding this because, and I sometimes look at the extremes because if there's ever an appeal, I usually try to understand the intent of yourself who has to implement this in DPS. Going back to the battalion chief, the note with the associated degree or higher from an accredited college or university, fire science, fire protection, and other closely related classes. It's a two-part question. What is, in your mind, defined as a closely related? If I have a degree in engineering, government, social science, business administration, Are any of those, what would be defined as closely related?
Sir, in my professional opinion, closely related would be things like a fire science degree, emergency management, a public administration degree, even to a lesser extent, a business management degree. The whole idea with that for the battalion chief was to start developing leadership planning, or excuse me, succession planning and leadership development for higher levels. So we actually, at that point, we start looking for something more than just a simple fire science degree.
Okay. All right. Fire engineer, you've gone back to the old term. My department changed them to apparatus operators. One of the things that has been included in here, and it is in different sections of it under knowledge and also essential duties, is when assigned to a paramedic position, duties may include. I don't know anything about how your paramedic system works, and my curiosity is this is not a new classification because you're including it in the old classification. Are you intending that it be an incentive? How are paramedics selected? Once you get a paramedic license, are you required to keep it for a period of time? What if I'm a fire engineer and I decide I don't want to be a fire engineer paramedic anymore? How does this work?
Well, currently, sir, the engineer class and the class of firefighter paramedics are separate classes. However, as you know, often when members promote into the rank of engineer, for personal reasons and professional reasons, many will maintain their paramedic license. So that's why that language was included in there.
If I promote to a fire engineer and either I'm already a paramedic or I go to school to become a paramedic, does that mean I'm utilized by the department? Or it says, I believe in some of the language in DPS's report that, when those, I got to get over their report, when they are selected and how, paramedics, I know I came from Sac City. When we went to them, they were like gold. But how are they chosen? Paramedic, where does it say? When positions are designated to operate as a paramedic, you designate that position, but how does the individual fire engineer or firefighter or that paramedic get chosen?
Stephanie, can you outline the process that you've outlined for me?
Sure. So applicants will apply for the exam. Once they're qualified, they rank. When they are trying to fill either a firefighter position within the department, will be designated firefighter paramedic positions. And so if that is a position that they want to go to, if they have all of their licensing, they will be put into that position as opposed to just the firefighter.
With that, is it incumbent upon the firefighter or engineer or captain that they get the paramedic training on their own?
Currently, Commissioner, we are requiring the members to get their own paramedic training. We have not, as of yet, been able to identify the funding for that.
All right. In that case, so if you designate I need a this position to be a paramedic, and 2 persons within that rank are paramedics and apply, how are they chosen?
Our plan currently is to, once they've went through DPS's portion of the recruitment process, to then have a second internal process of our own that will include our medical director, Dr. Mackey, and select the most qualified and capable member if it comes down to that point. Currently, we actually have more vacancies than we have internal paramedics.
I would assume that is true. That has always been true. But so you're saying if 2 persons are paramedics and only 1 opening, that will be done through some type of interview process with EMS?
Yes, sir. It would be an interview process.
County medical. Okay. With that, what incentives does a firefighter, engineer, captain, other than the pride in his job, go through almost 2,000 hours of training to be a paramedic? Is there an incentive for that somehow, or why would they want to do that?
Well, primarily, Commissioner, as you just pointed out, it is within our department. It is pride and desire to serve the public. As you know, the airport sits in the far northwest corner of the county, and we're approximately 20 minutes from the closest advanced life support backup. So that is the reason that we all strove to establish an ALS program. So that's primarily, my members are definitely interested in delivering a high level of service to the airport.
If I am a paramedic and I'm chosen that there's a designated position and I receive that position, am I required to maintain myself as a paramedic once I become one?
Yes, sir. If you're appointed into the job class of firefighter paramedic, you will be required to maintain that certification. If
what about
you...
AO?
No, sir.
I'll let you finish your statement. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right. If you promote in the position of engineer or fire captain, at this time, maintenance of your paramedic license is completely up to you.
Okay. So if I am hired as a fire engineer and I get promoted and I get my paramedic license and there's a assigned position, I may take that or may not. But once I do take it, if I decide, because the burnout rate sometimes with paramedics can be high, if I decide I, for whatever reason, do not maintain my license, I will still maintain my rank? Is that what I heard?
At this time, sir, we don't have the ability to appoint an engineer into the job class of firefighter paramedic. They're actually 2 different job classes. So an engineer can't be assigned into that job class. It's kind of
an engineer can... Okay. I got paperwork all over my... Excuse me. You're saying an engineer cannot be assigned to as a paramedic?
Yes, sir. They're actually 2 separate ranks. And however, if an engineer wants to maintain his paramedic license, so as an example, we get on a call where a cardiac arrest, where a second paramedic being able to apply his or her skills would be advantageous to patient care, you know, that engineer at that point can step up and render care. But at this time, they are 2 separate job classes.
Looking at, maybe I'll look a little bit further. Looking at the MQs are the attachments, and I'm on attachment I believe. They only, and I is firefighter paramedic. And within that, this is only one classification. And within the MQs here is when assigned to a paramedic position, duties may all include, etc. In addition, when assigned to paramedic duties, this, the way I believe it's written now, and maybe DPS can clarify it, is there is not two classes. There is a fire engineer class, and within the fire engineer class, there's a paramedic. There's not a firefighter slash paramedic or engineer and an engineer slash paramedic. The way I see it written, and if DPS can or you can point it out differently.
Okay, I'm unable to find that.
Oh,
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so by us including that into the specs, that gives us the allowance for that, but that the department currently does not. It is not set up at this time that way, but it does give us the allowance for that.
Is it true that if we pass this, where the department utilizes or not, it is set up that way? So it is that way. It's just when it's set up that way. One of the things, curiosity, is if I am in that classification. What I heard, I believe, as a captain or as a fire engineer, if I am utilizing my paramedic license and I do not recert or I make a choice, I don't want to be a paramedic anymore, for whatever reason, they would maintain their position as an engineer or captain. Is that true?
Yes, sir. At this
Karen
time,
Farrell.
Okay, but
Commissioner Johnson, I just wanted to clarify when a particular, that note that says when a position is designated as a paramedic position, that would be noticed at the time of hire, that particular position does require the maintaining of that paramedic license. And therefore, if that person decided that they no longer wanted to have it, the department could have the discretion to transfer them to a position that doesn't require it if there is one vacant. But
if there is not one vacant,
that would be something that they would have to deal with through their labor and disciplinary process, but they are noticed at the outset when they are hired for the position that position has been designated a paramedic license position.
All right. Another question, which I believe the chief stated earlier, that if you are a firefighter and become a paramedic, if you choose not to maintain your license, the firefighter may lose his job. Correct?
Yes, sir. If they've been been selected and put into a designated firefighter paramedic position, yes, sir. Once, as Karen just said, once they've been put in that position and at the onset they are notified that position is it's mandatory that they maintain their license.
Okay. And with that, because I know different departments have set up their programs differently, and did not have them in MQs or separate class, or made it a separate class, or paid it through an incentive program. My curiosity is because where I work, a demand for a paramedic was paramount. Everybody needed them. They were in short supply. There was continuous burnout of them. And with that, some gave up their license because and instead of that, went along with it and maintained a position in the department. And what I am hearing here is that if you take this test and the MQs are this, and you accept this position now, if you don't maintain that paramedic license, you may not have a job anymore, even if you're an AO or a captain, if there's no place for you to go. And part of that is I'm kind of going, the job classification title does not, there's no classification for a paramedic. And DPS made that decision why they didn't do it. And I'm looking at, I think, our civil service rules, dealing with civil service rule, I think it's 2.1, that we're supposed to group people together by their duties and skills, et cetera, if they are similar. Being a paramedic is much different, and I think you know this too, than an EMT. An EMT takes 180 hours, 60 hours to get a license. Paramedic is almost 2,000. So my difficulty is that on the downside of this, you need paramedics, but you put them at risk for the joy of doing their job and having a job, that if they don't maintain that license, and there's a lot of skills and work and tensions that go into that job, that they have a good chance of losing their job. And I think you could probably set it up to protect the workers a little bit more than you have. So that's my criticism. The other, and I wish it wasn't set up that way, DPS's report, Chief, I was curious, when it was submitted by DPS and also submitted by, I believe, the directors of the airports concurred with it. Did you not concur with that or sign it for any reason?
I'm sorry, sir. Can you repeat that question?
The DPS report for the classifications, changes, modifications, revisions, etc., is signed at the end of by the person from DPS. And it also is signed by, I believe it is, I don't have it in front of me, the director of airports. One of the most important persons that is affected by this report is you, but your signature isn't there saying that you concur with this report. Is this report providing with you with all your needs?
Yes, sir, it is, and I do concur. I just haven't necessarily been afforded the opportunity to sign it yet.
That, Commissioner Johnson, I know that DPS has been working very closely with the fire chief on this, and it's general protocol to have the director of the department sign to her designee. We don't generally gather the signatures of the a lower staff. So that there's nothing irregular.
The chief of the department is a lower staff, right?
Well, sir, we're as a fire department, we're actually a department within a department. We're within the Department of Airports, and that is why Cindy Nickel, the director of airports, signed.
I realize, Chief, but I also understand you're the one that has to make it work.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate that recognition, sir. For what it's worth, sir,
Chief,
just addressing your concern, I am a paramedic and have been for 35 years, and so I understand your concern, where you're coming from. The problem is... And
you've seen...
Go ahead, sir.
Excuse me. Yeah, with that, you've seen a lot of change, some of the stress, especially over the last 15, 20 years, that have been put on the EMS system and the demand for paramedics. And the system that I see you setting up, I wish I could feel a little bit better about it, that there is at least when a person is unable for whatever reason to maintain a paramedic license, and they're the ones that are going out, you're telling me, currently having to get their own license, and with the time, the skill, and the expense. But when, for whatever reason, they cannot continue, that they're putting themselves in a position of losing their livelihood.
Yes, sir. The unfortunate part about it is we are a very small fire department, and with only 33 full-time members. And as you pointed out, paramedics are gold, and we are competing with a significant number of much larger departments in the area who are also trying to hire paramedics. And if we don't have the ability to require maintenance of that license, we could put ourselves in a very difficult situation where we could find ourselves with virtually no paramedics rather quickly, and that could have obviously a serious impact on our ability to provide care for people here at the airport.
Chief,
This is sorry, I have to cut in. I apologize profusely. I just because again, Commissioner Johnson, you had recused yourself. I need to confirm something with the fire chief. Chief, can you please confirm with me the paramedic designation? Is it would it also be would it apply to the fire engineer or the fire battalion chief, or does it only apply to the firefighter and the fire captain classes?
Right now, firefighter paramedic is a job class of its own, and so it's.
Excuse me, Chief. Chief, right now the firefighter paramedic is a job classification of its own.
Yes, sir. Karen or Stephanie, am I misspeaking here?
I believe we have an issue of. I'm sorry. This is the executive officer. I think that we are traversing in some difficult waters here with Commissioner Johnson having recused himself from discussions on the firefighter and the fire captain positions because of the relationship with Local 552. So unless the paramedic
Alice, let
uh-huh.
me cut you off right now. I agree with what you're saying, but the one classification that is not represented by Local 522 is the fire engineer. And my understanding, listening to the chief and DPS, is the mechanism for a paramedic is exactly the same if whatever rank in those three you are. Firefighter, AO, captain. I am speaking to the fire engineer.
Okay. That's all I wanted just to confirm, is that the engineer also could obtain that paramedic designation. So that my question for the chief was that the fire engineer position can be designated as a paramedic, or the battalion chief for that matter.
For the engineer rank, yes, and for the captain as well. But yes, certainly for the engineer.
Okay.
Ma'am, there would be nothing preventing the battalion chief, although it'd be highly unlikely. And Commissioner, if I could just finish my last statement, I also understand your concern about the potential negative impact on a firefighter's career should they experience burnout. I, like you, my primary concern is the personnel that work for me, and we have absolutely no intention of throwing anybody's career away. Our personnel, it's our greatest resource, obviously, and so we work very closely with 522, and we would do our best to move them into positions where a paramedic's certification or license wasn't an MQ.
To my understanding, Chief, of how the system works, and I think it has to be answered by DPS, is the way it is written within the MQs does not require or demand that that person be paramedic. It's like the MQs for fire engineer. It does not say MQs for fire engineer / paramedic. That's the way it's the report I have. So with
Yes, correct,
that,
sir.
my curiosity, if for whatever reason somebody gave up or wasn't able to maintain their license, it is not stating specifically. Get to the MQs, just a sec, sir. It's not stating specifically that somebody must maintain their paramedic duties. It says when assigned paramedic duties, or in addition, when assigned to a paramedic position. It is not saying.
Position.
Yeah, but are you saying? But what I heard, at least I believe I heard, is if that person in that classification, fire engineer, which is nothing in here says you must maintain it as condition of employment. It's just if he loses his license, he may fall into he may lose his job technically if there's no place to put him. And I heard the answer was yes.
So if I may,
that risk gives me concern.
So if you can go to page 4, where it talks about the paramedic license requirement.
Yep, I'm going right there. Page 4, certification requirements, paramedic.
So they're saying
yes.
So they're saying positions designated to operate as a either firefighter paramedic, fire engineer paramedic, or fire captain paramedic. They are required to obtain the EMT paramedic license and maintain.
I would love your program to be successful. With all the hours put into this program that it takes to do it and all the competition for that. And you know, to be a paramedic, 2,000 hours and everybody wants one. And I was told by the chief that we are going to do this for the good of the department. Unless, which is, I see just doing it for the good of the department and for, is a whole bunch of work that you're putting people at risk if you're not giving them. Okay, I understand. I thank you and I hope it works well. It has worked in other departments.
Commissioner Johnson, if I may, I think there's been just a little bit of confusion with the fire engineer and the fire captain spot. The way this was written is so that if we desire to down the road, we could designate them as paramedic positions, such as like Sacramento City Fire Department has EMS captains that are also licensed paramedics, and they fall into an EMS supervisor role. And we're planning for that for the evolution and growth eventually of our program. We're not there yet, not by a long shot. Right now, we anticipate we anticipate all of our paramedic positions being in the firefighter's rank. And fortunately, not all of our firefighter positions will be paramedic positions. At this time, we anticipate only 6 of them. And part of that is because of the shortage of paramedics, and partly because we don't want to have too many positions and not be able to maintain their skill sets. As you know, you have to use those skills just like any other position in the fire service. If you don't use those skills, you degrade. So right now, a firefighter paramedic, if hypothetically he or she starts to experience burnout, we currently have firefighter positions within the department that are not designated as paramedics. And also, that person would have the ability to start pursuing promotion to engineer or captain. So there is an avenue out, and we are providing for support of our personnel, but also planning for eventual growth as well.
Yeah. I know. All right. I've been out of the department for 15 years or more, and I know with the paramedics within the city, and you brought up fire captain as being a supervisor, and yes, they do use fire captains who are paramedics and EMS as supervisors. But in the department, whether you are firefighter apparatus operator or captain, and you maintain, it used to be, I don't know how it is today, but if you maintain your license, there was a stipend or incentive, and you were expected, even as a captain, if you end up on an EMS call and your services, your skill sets are needed, that you will perform. So, and the city set it up that way, and basically, went through an incentive program. Even though the incentive was, I thought, reasonable, and you know this if you've been in service long enough, and as a paramedic, it is still sometimes very hard, and to get all the paramedics you do need. And they have been a boon, and I congratulate you in moving that direction, sir.
Thank you.
So, Commissioner Nelson here, I got a question on the EMT and the MQs. Is that something you have to have before you get hired, or can you get that after you get hired?
At the time of application, you will need to have that. So prior.
So you have to attain that as part of the minimum qualifications. You have to have that in order to be qualified to take the test.
Correct.
Paramedic one you can get afterward. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so I have another question on the fire engineer. On the probationary period, it's 6 months. How did you arrive at that? Because the firefighter one is 12 months, and now all of a sudden it goes down to 6.
Yes, the firefighter probationary period is 12 due to the training requirement that they have to go through. For the engineer class, it's more aligned with a captain. You would have already gone through all of the academy training and the ARF training, so you would be at the engineer class for 6 months.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, when you're ready to entertain a motion, if it's the commission's desire, I would recommend that the motion be to adopt the executive officer's recommendations, because it does include additional amendments from the to what was initially recommended by DPS, which they've indicated they are fine with.
Okay. So, any of you commissioner members have any issues with the report that the executive secretary has submitted?
Commissioner Johnson, I don't have it in front of me, and I'm looking for it. I had DPS's report. I am a little unclear of specifically what amendments our executive director is speaking of, and as we speak, I'm trying to get back to her report.
It's also in the chair notes if you have those, Commissioner Johnson. If you have the
I don't
chair
have
notes.
them. I don't have those in front of me as yet. I will try to get there.
Okay, if you'd like, I would be happy to tell you what they are. That would be easier.
If you would, please.
Sure. So, in addition to the recommendations that DPS has provided, I also recommend that we amend the certificate requirement in each of the class specs, including the proposed fire engineer class, to delete the reference to the California State Department of Health and replace it with the California State Emergency Medical Services Authority, as that is the agency that is responsible for issuing the EMTs. I also had recommended that you pre-authorize the adoption of the firefighter Sacramento County Airport Fire Level 1, 2, and the fire captain, Sacramento Fire. The eligible list once the aforementioned actions were approved by the Sacramento Board of Supervisors, so that the department can continue to use those lists in the event that they hire between the time that the study is approved by the commission and then taken up by the Board of Supervisors. So those are the two additional amendments I was suggesting.
Thank you.
I also, because we have Commissioner Johnson recusing himself from the firefighter and fire captain, we may need to be creative here in the formulation of a motion. What I would recommend that we do in this case, commissioners, is that you have two motions. The first motion would be, would be to recommend the adoption of the executive officer's recommendations, except as they pertain to the firefighter and the fire captain classification. That would allow Commissioner Johnson to vote on that motion. And then a second motion would be to then accept or to adopt the executive officer's recommendations as they pertain to the firefighter and fire captain classifications.
Is that doable? Can we do that?
Yes, you can.
We could do anything.
The way the DPS presented it.
You can bifurcate that. It simply allows Commissioner Johnson to vote on part of the study. Otherwise, Commissioner Johnson would need to recuse himself from voting on the entire study.
Well, that's my understanding. Once he recused himself, I suppose he can vote on the parts that he didn't recuse himself. So, okay.
Exactly. He can vote on the classifications that are not represented by Local 552, which are the engineer, the battalion chief, and the chief physician. And so that's why I suggested that you bifurcate the motion and you just simply have two motions. One would be to adopt the executive officer's recommendations minus the firefighter and the fire captain, and then to have a second motion once that one has been adopted, if that's what the commission desires, to then adopt the executive officer's recommendations as they pertain to those two separate classes.
Okay, got it. Okay, gentlemen, does somebody have a motion for those two items?
And would you like me to restate it again, and then perhaps somebody could just go ahead and say that will be their motion?
That would be great, yes.
Okay. So my first suggested motion would be to adopt the executive officer's recommendations, except for those that pertain to the firefighter level 1, 2 class and the fire captain class.
This is Gordon. I would make that motion.
Okay, we have a second on that?
This is Commissioner Blois. I'll second that.
Okay, Gina, will you please have a roll call vote on that?
Okay. Commissioner Blois, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Purdy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Is Commissioner Suter gone?
Commissioner Suter is gone. So he
Yeah,
is absent.
he had to leave, yes.
Okay.
We will mark him absent. All right, that motion has been adopted on a 4-0 vote. So the second motion I would recommend is to adopt the executive officer's recommendations as it pertains to this study, and as it pertains specifically to the firefighter level 1, 2, and the fire classifications.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'll make that motion, Commissioner Blois.
Okay, Commissioner
Gordon Purdy will second.
Okay. So now we will now have a roll call vote, except Mr. Johnson has recused himself, so he will not be voting. So Gina, will you go ahead?
Commissioner Johnson's name shall be read, but he will not be counted. So you need to say his name, Gina.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Boyce, how do you vote?
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote? Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Purdy, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, let the record show that that motion has been adopted on a 3-0 vote with Commissioner Suter absent and Commissioner Johnson recusing himself.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So now, it looks like you can take it away, Alice. We're on item 10.
Yes, we're going to, one second, I'm typing in this motion really quick for the record here. Okay. All right. So yes, very much, Commissioners. We'll move to the next item, which is my report. I'll keep this brief. Our next meeting is slated for January 9th. However, that meeting will be canceled as we're just conducting the one meeting a month due to COVID. Our next meeting then will be on January 22nd, 2021, so our first meeting of the new year. Commissioners will consider recommendations stemming from the 2020 Construction Labor Compliance class study. In addition, it's likely you'll hear an exam disqualification and a failed drug appeal at that meeting. At the February 19th meeting, you're tentatively scheduled to hear, or actually to consider recommendations to the county's classification plan stemming from the 2020 Solid Waste and Recycling Series, as well as the 2020 Voter Registration and Election Series class studies. And then at your March 19th meeting, you may consider recommendations to the Sacramento County Classification Plan stemming from the 2020 Traffic Signs Maintenance Worker class study. Currently, there are 5 release from probation appeals pending before the commission. You also have a failed drug test, an allocation, and 1 exam disqualification, as well as a failed psychological evaluation appeal pending. And I also just wanted to let you know that I received the 2020 Waste Management Operations class study for my preliminary review this week. I have to say that the Department of Personnel is on fire when it comes to these class studies. They are pushing out more studies than I have time to read. So they're very busy, very, very busy. Also, just to let you know, the office will be closed, of course, on Friday for the Christmas holiday. That concludes my reports, unless there are any questions.
This is Commissioner Johnson. I do have questions. Our last minutes for the November 20th meeting, this was approximately a month ago, and talked about, in a long discussion we had with DPS of getting back to us on a report from continuous examination. And at that time, it was even expressed of the timeliness of it. If I just heard your report correct, that is not scheduled at any time till maybe after March. So that's, if I count on my fingers and toes, that's 5 months.
I have not, I just haven't scheduled it for a meeting. The commission had expressed a desire to have that particular item discussed in person or by video if we're able to utilize Zoom or a component of Blue Jeans that allows a visual. So we don't know when we're going to be able to do that. So it's just not on the schedule as of yet. I did send a memo asking for the updated report from DPS, and I believe that I gave them until the end of February to that report to us, knowing that we would not be in a live meeting before that time, given the status of COVID. So it's not on the docket, but it's absolutely moving forward, and we will be addressing that. Again, it was the commission's desire to have that in person, and so that's the track that I'm on. If the commission wants to take a separate track, then we should probably schedule that for discussion at our next meeting so that we can then take action on that, the discussion.
Okay. I was going to add.
It's up on the.
You were breaking up, so I only have been hearing about every other word.
Oh, I'm sorry. It absolutely is on our to-do list.
I agree with you. I would prefer to have it done in person. I don't know the feasibility of that being done in a timely manner, because there was talk at that meeting in November that we would like to not have it slide too long. My next question, if I want information from DPS on an issue of concern to me that they could help educate me and understand it better, what do I do? Is just ask them, or does the whole board have to support that to get a report back from DPS?
It would depend on the complexity of the request. If it was just a simple request for some information, I'm sure that an email would suffice. But if you're asking for information of
why don't I tell you what I am still trying to grasp and understand better? Is, and I mentioned to you that I did appreciate your report on the fire classification, because you included almost 5 pages of the need or justification for level 1 and level 2. And I've expressed to you that I believe your report as it is flawed. I still believe that one of the arguments that has been given, as we discussed this in the past, has been that it is rarely, if ever, used. And so it could be like let sleeping dogs lay. What I would like to know is, one, how many job classifications are level 1, level 2? How many times is it used, one, to increase somebody in a pay step to give them more, what personnel and you use is recruitment ability? And then how many times it is used to not grant somebody a pay step on completion of their probation, and for what length of time that takes place. Because I believe most pay steps are 5%, and if you take 5% away from somebody for a few months, and I would assume their next pay step is going to be put off till they get the first one, that by compounding that withholding of salary for same job, is you're making a fairly good financial impact into thousands of dollars. I would like to know how many times they do it. Maybe it's not a concern because they don't do it. And that has been their statement in the past. I'd like a report to see the numbers.
I believe
and I would like it also not just 2020 to go back a little bit when we were in a normal hiring process.
I believe, Commissioner Johnson, that I need to look at the record. I was trying to pull up my records. But I believe that we talked about the level 1, 2 classifications at a meeting, but I think that we also talked about how much the commission, how much desire there was to take action on that item at our December meeting last year. And we voted on those items. I can pull that up and take a look at it. I was having
Alice?
Yeah.
What I would like to do is I disagreed then. I was a minority vote. And many of the arguments that were brought up pro and con in the limited time and not being in person and not being scheduled to specifically just talk about that, as we were going to specifically talk about continuing exam, is to get enough information from DPS that may satisfy me, and I would go, hey, I understand better. But from your report and DPS's report, from my position, I still have questions. I will still be a pain to somebody at every meeting that comes up and ask those questions till I get specific answers. So can I just have a conversation with DPS? I don't know if they would allow me to have that.
I would.
How about research it and get it back to me?
What I would have to do is, because what we're talking about is, what I would recommend at this time, Commissioner Johnson, is if you could put your request for information in an email, and then I can talk to the chairman about this offline, because we're discussing this under the executive officer's report. So, which
why don't we discuss it? Okay.
And we can, if the commission is I have to also talk to DPS. I don't know how easy that is to get that information. We don't manage their workload. The commission doesn't, and so I don't know how complex that is, or if if one commission member is just asking a simple question that doesn't require a lot of work, I know that they can answer those questions. But if the request for information is lengthy or difficult to obtain, then it would be best to have the commission request that information as a body, as opposed to one commissioner. Otherwise, we have, anytime there's a complicated question that requires a lot of work, a commissioner could just ask that, and then that would take away from DPS's roles and responsibilities, which we just don't, the commission doesn't, we don't have authority over their workload. So I'm just trying to be sensitive to that. But if you wouldn't mind just putting in an email your request for information, and then I can talk with DPS and see how easy it would be to come up with that information. And if it's difficult, then we can have that on our next agenda for discussion by the commission as a whole.
All right. Thank you.
Does that sound like it's fair?
I will try to put something together, because I will apologize to my fellow commissioners for taking up their time, but it is important to me, and I will try to, what I was hoping to do, get to a point to synthesize it down that we could move forward on it either one way or the other. But yes, I will try to get that to you, and to my fellow commissioners, thank you for your patience.
Yes, I do know that at our December 13th meeting, 2019, we did discuss as a priority for the commission salary levels within a specific classification. Are salary levels consistent with the directive that candidates be hired on the basis of merit? Does the commission have jurisdiction to place requirements on salary levels? For example, specify a time frame in which incumbents move from one salary level to the next. And after discussion by the commission at that meeting, there was not a majority that were voting to move forward with any of those items. So if those questions are still persisting, we would need to have that scheduled again for commission discussion, and whether or not they want to pursue that. So if you send me your questions, I can at least compare it with what action the commission already took, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson here, I think in the interest of information, if Mr. Johnson could submit that to you, and then that comes on our agenda, and we could all decide, commission, that we want to send an RFI to DPS for that information. Is that doable?
that's what I'm suggesting is that if Commissioner Johnson submits the email to me, I can first talk to DPS to see if it's information that's super easy to obtain, and then it's simple. It can be dispensed with that way. But if it's something that requires more analysis or a time or what have you, then we can bring that back and again discuss that in the form of the committee. I will just let you know we have already quite a few items on the January 22nd agenda. I know it's a month away, but it's not really, because the packets have to get out to you, at least a week in advance. And we do have the holidays that are here with people taking time off. And so it might be difficult to get something on that agenda. I'm just giving you a heads up because of that. So, but Commissioner Johnson, please send me your email, and then we can, if it's something we can just easily resolve, then so be it. But I won't know until I just see the email. I want to make sure that you get information, and commissioners have a right to information. And I absolutely don't support not allowing the freedom of information flow. It's just a matter of workload for DPS and just trying to manage that because they are not under our jurisdiction. So if DPS reported to the commission, it would be something completely different. You could get that information whenever you wished, because that would be your direction. So I'll look for your email, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So now, are we to the end? Anybody want a motion for a close of the session here?
So moved, Commissioner Johnson.
Second.
Okay. Motion to adjourn the meeting has been moved and seconded. Gina, will you please take a roll call?
Commissioner Blois?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Purdy?
Aye.
And who seconded that motion?
I did.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
please, yes.
Right. Thank you very much. Happy
Okay.
holidays, everybody, and
Happy Christmas,
New Year.
everybody.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Okay, guys.
Merry Christmas. Be safe.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So long.
Bye-bye.